Perfect.
Hello, Bob.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep. In comes Danya. Good evening, Danya.
Hi, sorry I was muted.
That's all right. Thanks for coming to the meeting.
Thank you for the invite.
I'm sure you all have much better things to be doing on a Thursday evening in October. We're just waiting on Sharon. And Bill Collins, but Bill said he may be late signing in. He may be coming in from signing in on the road.
Okay.
Tom as well.
Ernie said he'd be here, so I'm not worried about that.
Okay, you don't chaos.
Either that or I know Ernie was heading off to the casino when I last saw him. Maybe he won big and he's not going to be on the meeting. Madam Chair. Aaron. Hello. Up above, and you should see, like in the middle of the invitation, there'll be that long string of numbers and letters and stuff. Mike Miller's inviting you to, and then there's a date and time, and then I think it's a Zoom meeting info. Click follow the link, and it's like in the middle of it. Should be maybe blue with an underline. So you click on the link, it brings you to telephone numbers. That's strange. All right, let me try. Yep. No, no, that shouldn't be it. Did it add it to your calendar? Sometimes that can happen. You've got an Apple. What do we have for a computer? Go to your calendar and look under tonight. All right, I'm looking. Let's see. There's a way of inviting. Hold on. Let me send you an invite. Invite. sb57@aol.com. All right, I'm sending it right now.
I just sent it to Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. We have a new
Hola.
internet. I guess it's not working that great.
Good
Hey,
evening.
I'm glad you made it.
All right.
you made it.
Are we all here?
We are all here. The only
I
one that's,
am.
we have Commissioner Quartermass joined us. The only one we're missing is Commissioner Fitzpatrick and Collins. But Commissioner Collins may join us as the meeting progresses.
Okay, so okay. So I have to read this from the in-person, do I have to read this?
Yes, pursuant to Chapter 20.
Okay, pursuant to chapter, all right, meeting called to order. Date and time, September 16, 2020. No, that's the meeting notice. Hold on. Am I in the wrong one?
You would be in September's agenda, yeah,
Wrong
we're in
packet.
October.
You know what? Now I gotta go on my phone. I didn't get my mail package yet either. Hold on. I apologize. Christine. I tried to print it, but now my printer won't work.
My computer went into a complete upgrade as soon as I checked in. Like, it took me 15 minutes.
I know, it's awful. All right, I got the right one. Okay.
Oh.
Date and time, meeting call to order. Date and time, Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. This is a virtual meeting that is only accessible remotely. Please join the meeting from your computer, tablet, or smartphone using the access below. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, the public meeting of the Lawrence Airport Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who like to listen to view this meeting while in progress may do so of any of the following access locations: Facebook, Lawrence City Council page, YouTube, and that's it. All right, meeting call to order. Carla, can you take roll call, please?
Sharon Birchall,
Here.
Andres Castillo,
Here.
Bill Collins, Danya Amador Martis,
Here.
Ernest Quartermash,
Here,
Jack Fitzpatrick, Dan Foley,
Here.
Bob Irving,
Here.
Bill Pedrick.
here.
Okay, thank you, Carla.
You're welcome.
All right, so do I have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes from September 16th.
Yes, motion made by Castillo to accept the minute.
Second,
Second by Tanya Amador Martis.
any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda. Finance Committee.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes,
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. I hope everyone is well, and we are looking at the first page, the revenues and expense report for September. Is everyone able to look at that?
Mhm.
So for the month of September, we did have an excess of revenues in the amount of $19,031.75. That brings us for the year-to-date fiscal year 2022 to an excess of revenues in the amount of $1,522.29. I'm sure the commissioners remember that we had different expenses right at the beginning of the fiscal year, and we are in that report in the third month, and we are already in the black numbers, so that is very good. If there are any questions, I'm open to that now. If not, we go to the second page, the detailed expense report. And there was really nothing out of the ordinary. That's why we kept the expenses quite low, just regular monthly expenditures, no extra repair, no extra large amounts of expenditures. The next, I would like to go to the tenant payment status. I did send out this afternoon updated tenant payment statuses. I hope everyone did receive that. And what I did here, I did highlight the changes in yellow. And we want to first look at the fiscal year 2021. There are still some outstanding payments, Lawrence Airmotive percentages of the fuel or the fuel flowage cost and the landing. As well as if we look at the next page of fiscal year 2022, there are some outstanding payments in regards to percentages of Lawrence Airmotive fuel and landings, as well as Land Lease West Ramp Leasing. That's Nick Flemier. I got off the phone with him this afternoon. He was out of the city and he promised me to have the checks in by tomorrow. So that will be taken care of by tomorrow.
Excuse me, Christine, who was that? The last one, Nick Flamia?
Yes, he is the owner of West Ramp Leasing and Lawrence Airmotive. So he's gonna be current by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Everyone else it's nearly up to date. There are some minor percentages. Eagle East, I'm sure he will be coming in. But like you can see on the yellow highlights that a lot of payments came in. And we're definitely going to be fine by the end of the month with the collections. Are there any questions to the tenant payment status? If not, I would like to mention that we did receive the free cash certification from the DOR. That is our retained earnings. All the excess of revenues go every fiscal year at the end of the fiscal year into that account. And as of, to my knowledge, it was October, I'm not sure of the date, Mike, October 12 or something like that. But it was certified that we do have $786,000 with $634 available for our retained earnings, which can be used for future projects, which will be upcoming in the next years. That would be all to my finance report. Any questions, any concerns, please speak now.
Christine,
Yes.
yes. How often do you say they review that? I can't hear you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Christine, you're muted.
Okay. Is it better now?
Oh, much better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my question was how often
Yeah,
they
once a year. So the DOR certifies the retained earning or the fund balance once a year.
once a year.
So every fiscal year, that is once a year, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
If I may, at the end of the fiscal year, municipalities close the books and then the Department of Revenue comes in, make sure their books are balanced, and then they come out with a determination of what they have for free cash or the amount of monies they have in retained earnings, whether it be the general fund or the enterprise accounts. So the numbers, although we didn't get the information or certification from DOR until October, they actually relate back to June 30th of 2021. So on their books, we closed our fiscal year with, in the R account, there's also the city's general fund, the water department, the sewer, and the parking department are also enterprise accounts. But the airport's enterprise account was certified at $786,634. It's an annual process, and you're only allowed to access that money after the DOR certifies your retained earnings. So even though you close the books on June 30th, between June 30th and the day that they actually certify it, you don't have access to those funds. You can't use it.
Because
So-
the books are actually not closed yet because we are still paying bills. So it's only on the revenue sides that the collections stopped. But reconciliation, like Mike mentioned, the airport manager mentioned, will not be done by late September, beginning of October.
Any other questions?
Christine, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Has anybody indicated any financial struggles,
No, anybody,
difficulties?
everybody is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you as well.
Any other questions for Christine? No? All right, thank you very much, Christine. Do we have a motion to accept the financial?
Motion is made by Castillo to accept the financial report.
Second,
I second Ernie Kudomash.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you so much, Christine. Great
My
job.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Next is the leasing committee.
Commissioner Collins indicated that he may be late getting here, and if he wasn't here, I would present it on his behalf. So on last month's agenda, Boston Medflight came before us and expressed interest in developing and building a building up behind the air traffic control tower. And I did meet with the representatives from Boston Medflight, their CFO, together with a contractor to walk that area. And they're now developing cost estimates as to what it will take to develop a building in that location to meet their needs. They also express interest in possibly building on the other side of the airport in lieu of that location, because they know there's going to be a significant amount of material they're going to have to move, and the earthwork will be very expensive. So they did say that they would get back to us. I think it would be beneficial to have them come to our next meeting to give us an update where they stand at the end of November. So I think that would be, since we're not going to meet, traditionally don't meet in December, we won't hear from them again until January. So I think, and the reason I bring that up is Mr. Helfrich, who is still going ahead with his project in the building next door, but he's still pending COVID. He's holding off because the staff that he was hoping to put into that building still hadn't even returned to his offices down on Merrimack Street. And plus, there's also some supply chain issues he's concerned about. He would like that land, if it's available, to put a parking lot for the staff so that they could park up there rather than in the parking lot down at the base of the control tower. So I hope that Boston Medflight does go forward with the project on the airport, and I'd like to see if we can bring them in November to get some guidance as to whether they're going to do it in the area behind the control tower, or if the other side on the other side of the airport is more suitable because of the cost structure. So I make a request that we bring them before us in November just to get an update as to where they are. One of the issues that came up last month was West Ramp Leasing's request to sublease, and we had an opportunity that was confusing as to whether or not it was necessary. We had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Flamia, and he confirmed that it's not necessary. They do not need the sublease. The individual moved on to a different location. So he said it was okay to withdraw that item that we have on the table matters off of the agenda. So if we could have a motion to remove table matters number 1 from the agenda because it's unnecessary. And that's all I have at this time.
All right. Do we have a motion on the floor to invite, what was his name? I'm sorry, Mike.
It would be the representatives from Boston Medflight, Rick, and his last name Kennan, I think this is his last name. We'll invite representatives from Boston Medflight to update us.
Okay, and then I'll need another motion to remove the table matters. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Yes, motion's made by Castillo.
Okay,
Second, Bob Irving.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Carla, you got that to invite the gentleman to our next meeting and then remove the table matter?
Yeah, so motion to invite representatives from MedFlight to attend the meeting.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have airport security procedures.
Okay, regarding the security camera project, it's for all intents and purposes complete, except for a typical punch list of items that are being addressed as we speak. All cameras are installed and are operational. It's my understanding that they're having some difficulties, and this is regards to the punch list of problems. They're having some problems with the opening and closing of some of the gates, and some of the chains may have to be replaced. And that's basically it for that.
We have any questions for Commissioner Foley?
If I may, Madam Chair, if I could just add to Commissioner's
Sure.
report, we've got all the electronic components working outstandingly well. And now we're finding the little nuances of the mechanical components that aren't working. So the project took away half of the operational responsibilities, the electronic communication, but now it's left us to realize that a pulley here needs to be swapped out, or a sprocket there, because it's causing the mechanical aspect of the gate not to work fine. So I just want to say it's not that the electronic component wasn't done properly. It's just it was done so well. We now know that the mechanical aspects that are failing that we're addressing. I did have a gate contractor come down, and they looked at the boxes, and they admitted they're very, very old. They're 2007, and they suggested they all be swapped out. Obviously, we don't have those funds, but maybe Dom or Bob will talk about that later. We're exploring options at the state level to get a local grant to do that possibly. But at the very least, I think we could replace 1 or 2 in the fall and the spring, and then the fall and the spring of the following year, and that will be about $8,000 to $10,000 per box, depending upon what they need. But we're now addressing the mechanical, since thankfully all the electronic is up and working well. And again, I want to echo Commissioner Foley said, the cameras are fantastic. And I encourage everyone to come by and take a look. We're very excited about having them, and it gives a whole new depth of management of the airfield, because we can, some of these cameras now are pan, tilt, and zoom, so we can swing them around and position them in different locations. If there's any concern about something happening, we can locate a camera on that area and have it monitor the area. So we're very, very excited by that.
Good
Awesome.
work. Good
Yes.
work. Good job.
I have to credit Stantec and the Commonwealth. Remember, this was a $1 million project. It was paid 100% by MassDOT Aeronautics. They came through for us, which we're very, very happy.
Oh, thank you, Dom. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, guys.
And the contractor, Cullen Electric and Slater.
Yeah, kudos to the contractor. Excellent contractor.
Great job.
We're blessed.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So do we have a motion on the floor to accept the airport security procedures?
I make a
Yes.
motion. We accept it. Ernie Kudomash.
Second,
Second by
second it.
Tanya.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Thank you, Commissioner Foley. So old business, we'll just keep that on
Yes,
the,
please.
yes. New business, none. Airport managers report. Mike, you're up.
I will be quick. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. First of all the staff are doing well. Now that we are in the fall, COVID numbers are creeping up, and as well as people coming down with the flu, the seasonal flu. But all our operations staff are doing well, and we're all healthy. So I just want to let the commission know that. In your package, I'm sorry, it wasn't in your package. I sent it out on Tuesday. I'd like to just bring up tonight to open up the discussion, but maybe we'll definitely follow it as an agenda item next month. I did receive a correspondence from the North Andover Town Manager and Melissa Murphy Rodriguez. I had a visit with her back in September 20th. It was a very good meeting. She came to the airport with the North Andover Planning Director, and her primary concern, but she wanted to introduce herself first, but she also wanted to address a complaint that she had received from a constituent, a resident of North Andover, lives up on Bradford Street. I was well aware of the individual and then the location. I'd been spending most of my time in the month of January and early February up there. I tried to address, or at least identify, the reason for the aircraft over that house or that neighborhood, and it wasn't satisfactory to the resident. So I knew eventually it was going to go up the chain. It was going to go to a select person or a state representative, or even the town manager's office itself. So I told her that. Some of you may recall back in the early 2000s, the airport took the initiative to address concerns in response to the political leaders of the Merrimack Valley wanting an answer to the noise the aircraft created. So an advisory committee was put together with representatives from North Andover, Methuen, Lawrence, Haverhill, Boxford, and it was buy-in from the town managers, the mayors, the state representatives, the state senators. They all sent representatives to participate in this. And the takeaway after close to 18 months of study was that if you live near an airport, you should expect to hear airport noise. And
They
particularly,
needed a study for that.
yeah, but thankfully it was well reasoned by the people that were involved. We have some FAA representatives, one of the airport commissioners back in the time, Richard Resniak, worked for the FAA. He was able to use the resources he had made available. But at the end of the day, it came down to even the North Andover residents who were on the committee, who lived right next to the airport, agreed if I bought next to the airport, I should expect to hear. If I live under the flight pattern, or if I live under the approach path, you should expect to hear aircraft noise. They wanted to address the unnecessary noise that was farther away, up in Methuen over by the Loop, or in North Andover out by Smolak Farm, or out over Boxford. So they came with some recommendations that were put forward, and we put them out there seeking FAA guidance initially, and then when we didn't receive any criticism, we did hear from the control tower that certain items would not be enforceable because of their contract with the FAA. But long story short, we published them and we followed them as best we could. Well, going forward, this resident alleged that we did something back in November, December of 2020, and aircraft now over her house over Bradford Street, and they were never there. Unfortunately, though, that's not the case. It's her perception, and I know to her the perception is the reality, but it's really not the case. And I showed her and explained to her why the aircraft are there. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do based upon the voluntary procedures we put in place as a result of that exhaustive noise advisory committee process. So not being happy with that, the town manager was contacted. She came to me and I explained to the town manager exactly what I just described now. We put a lot of effort into that with a lot of political buy-in, and I wasn't going to unilaterally change it without further investigation or approval from those parties, the stakeholders that were involved the first time around, because it would send the message that, you know, he or she who complains last or loudest will get the result they want. So she agreed, she understood, and she acknowledged that there could be some unintended consequences if we move the traffic away from this particular person's house. You may get complaints and phone calls from another neighborhood within town of North Andover. So that being said, she did advise me that she was going to put it on the town's select board's committee agenda, and they had a meeting last Tuesday, and I believe it was discussed. And I was fortunate I couldn't watch the meeting live, but I did take a quick review of it on YouTube. And I first of all want to acknowledge and thank the select board of North Andover, because the general, and I'll paraphrase, the general opinion was the airport is an asset to the community and that the noise issue is really not a problem. But obviously citizens and residents of North Andover's concerns should be investigated. But they felt as though we did a lot of work in the past, and one of the select board members was Rosemary Smedili, who remembers this committee we put together because she was involved with discussions, because the North Andover representative would go before the Board of Selectmen. And she actually entered into a dialogue with the former Board of Selectmen who was sitting in the audience. And he stood up, remembering the process that we went through, and suggested that this was not an issue that they should be wasting their time on, and that they have more important things to worry about. But nevertheless, the select board was positive about the airport, and to me it was a vindication of all the hard work that the airport commission and the airport has done in the pilots and the air traffic control tower to try to mitigate the unnecessary noise impacts on the community, given that some long-term selectmen who were in there for years actually stood up and said it's not an issue. However, the town manager has an obligation, obviously, to follow the direction of her board, and she generated the letter that I sent out on Tuesday. A couple of the issues. The first one, that's very simple. We can do that. If you look at her bullet point number 1, they want us to track noise complaints, which is something we can do very easily. We don't get such a large volume that we can't do that. It's typically the same person from the same street, whether they're down at the approach on the 5 or up on Bradford Street when traffic is coming around to land on 2-3. So that'll be easy. It's not an inordinate amount of people that are complaining, so we will do that. The second line, the commissioning of a study, I think, to change our traffic patterns, I definitely want to have FAA input onto that, as whether it's not something we can even do. And second, I would suggest that maybe we should gather data first from the complaint log to determine if there's really even a problem that we need to study. So I'd like to first gather the information from the complaints and see if there are that many out there that we should deal with it. And then second, for request number 2 and request number 3 about limiting touch and goes, I think that also requires FAA input, because we would be restricting access to the airport, and we have an obligation under our grant assurances that we are to provide a free and open facility. So I would like, and I'll just let you know, I will be sending this to the compliance officer, George Pentelli from the FAA, to get his input, and hope they can update the commission next month on provisions 2 and 3. But number 1, we can implement immediately. That's no problem there.
So, Mike, in regards to that, you can track the noise complaints that we receive and give it as requested to the town managers? Can you do
I think
that?
so. What I believe that they're looking for is us to simply record the name, the date, time of day, the location, and what they were complaining of. That's relatively simple. We do receive those, and when we do, it's typically an ordinary operation that took place. It's very rare that it's an unusual operation. If it is, we get on top of it. We contact the tower, or we'll reach out to the pilot. But yes, we can do that. We'll continue to do that. We just haven't written it down in a logbook. So really, what she's asking is just to document in a logbook, and that's something.
And you, all right, and you can do that.
Yep.
My other question to you is, can you find out how many complaints that her office have received?
Sure, I'll inquire from her to see how many how many are complaining. That's a great idea. I'll do that
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yes. I'd like-
Along those lines, could we find out if they're anonymous or if they're identified?
Sure, I'll ask that as well.
Because the same person could call 10 times.
And
Exactly.
that's something I discussed as well. It has to be more than one person at one house because they'll call daily. Thank you, Commissioner Irving. I'll find out the number and if they're anonymous or if they're leaving their name and address.
And you know what else too? I don't know, commissioners, I thought of this just now too, but where people have been home because of COVID, are they noticing more that the airplanes are flying by than what they normally do because they've been at work all these years and haven't been home since 5 o'clock at night? I mean, because can we find out the date and time that they're complaining about the planes? And
I
if it
don't know if
is,
she has that, but that's definitely something they're looking for us or for me to record going
Yeah.
forward. So we will have that on our end at least. I don't know if she has it. I got the feeling from the conversation, given that she only brought up this one individual on Bradford Street, I don't believe there's a large number. I just think that this person really got to her that she wanted to see if there was something she could do to address her concern. Unfortunately, I think the genesis of her problem lies at the intersection of physics and geography. Aircraft have to do certain things and her house falls below that point, so.
Exactly. It's not that simple to change traffic patterns.
Exactly. That's why I'd like FAA involvement, as well as it's a very expensive endeavor. And I don't think we should be going down a path to expend a significant large amount of money, even if FAA says, yeah, you can do it, and we'll take a look at the back end, if there's not a problem to solve. That's why I think if we start with tracking these complaints, if it demonstrates that there's a large number of legitimate complaints, then working with the FAA, we would have to work with the FAA, work on, determining a solution to that problem. But if we did it unilaterally and change the traffic pattern, I don't think they would be too happy with it.
No.
Didn't we also address the touch and go prohibition several months ago where basically the FAA told us we could not do that?
Exactly, we did. And I told her that. I said, we got in trouble because of the Beverly Airport with complaints coming from Danvers that they said, why don't you do what Lawrence does? And the FAA said, what is Lawrence doing? And they looked at our site and they said, they can't do that. It's a violation of the grant assurance. Good memory, Commissioner Irving. I got a phone call the next morning from George Mantelli, said, Mike, this can't be done. This can't be done. This can't be done. And we had to remove it from our website. So yes, that's why I want her letter to be vetted by the FAA to see if in fact, requests number 2 and 3 are even within our purview. And I want to be honest with her up front because we had a great relationship. I understand where she's coming from and we have an open dialogue and I want to continue with that, but I also don't want her to be misled to think that we're working on something that we cannot do. And I did tell her that. I said that we accept federal grants and we are under grant assurance restrictions. There are things we can and cannot do. Some things are just not within our power. And I think she understood that. She definitely understood that.
I'm sorry.
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Sharon.
No, go ahead.
Is the complaint primarily the departure end of runway 5?
There is, it's the climb out to do a touch and go. The real complaint is the frequency of aircraft over her house on Bradford Street. It's not the jet that's taking off straight out and going out off of the departing runway 5. It's the aircraft that are really departing 3-2 and doing a right turn, then a right turn, then coming back over 3-2. It's the frequency that aircraft are flying over her house.
But that's a matter of the wind. That's not.
Yes.
That's not something we can control.
I know. I'm really not sure what she envisions is within our authority or power or control. But I tried to express everything to the homeowner that there are certain factors that are beyond our control. As I said, the runway is determined by the wind. She'd want us to just change the runway to give them a break. And I said, we can't do that because the aircraft need to take off and land into the wind.
Yeah.
And so I did my best. I would go over there every time they called. And of course, it was Murphy's Law. no pun intended with the name of the town manager, I would sit there and the couple was a very nice couple. And they would come out and I'd sit there and they'd say, go figure, now that you're here, there's no aircraft, but then the next day they would say that they're there all day long. And to say that they were never over their house until December. Initially, they tried to say that we changed something at the airport late last fall. But I think, Madam Chair, as you brought up, I heard this from my colleagues throughout the Commonwealth, people were home more in 2020. And those aircraft that were there during the day while they're out at work, they're now noticing an extra 8 hours and they're saying this is unbearable. Even Commissioner Irving, you talk about things that we can't change. Licensed pilots have to do touch and goes every 90 days after, sunset at night. And one day last June, she was complaining, why is a plane up there at 9 o'clock at night? And I checked the sunset log and the sun has just set like 20 minutes earlier.
It's
And I said,
called night
that's
landing.
why. Exactly. And she didn't respond back because I think a lot of people think I'm making the stuff up as I go, but I learned a long time ago. You have to be truthful and honest with the individuals because their next phone call will be to a state representative or a selectman or a mayor or a town manager, so you have to be honest with them.
I kind of expected it would be the people in those new apartments that would start complaining, but
No,
apparently not.
I would say that to all the boards and commissions that I'd be before. There's going to be another 300 future complainers, but no, they love it. Some of the people that live there actually enjoy watching the planes from their balconies. And then there is a gentleman you described on the approach end of runway 5. He called this week. He was blaming Amazon for the jets that are now at the airport. They were never there before Amazon. And I explained to him, Amazon's not even built yet. But he
Maybe it's those illegals that are coming in at night.
Possibly. But I get it. As I expressed to the town manager, it's a real problem to the individual making the complaint. But sometimes there's no answer to the problem. And this could be a case where there's no answer. We're sorry. I'm not suggesting this at this time, but I have thrown it out there and I want to have some serious discussion with the state and federal authorities. Maybe a program should be put in place that when you run into residents that live near airports that really just can't put up with the noise anymore, maybe there should be a program where the airports can purchase the property and then put a restrictive covenant on it, an abrogation easement on it, and then flip the property and sell it in the open market again. And as was expressed to me, it would be a better idea than going through a commission study that's going to say you're doing everything fine. There's no reason to change anything. But I just think it would be long-term a better path to follow because then it protects the politicians as well because they could say, listen, you bought a piece of property that was declared to be underneath the flight path. You should have been made aware at the closing that you've got an easement on the property for aviation purposes of the airport. What are you doing complaining now? And I've always expressed that to the politicians that put restrictive covenants with the apartments. I want to see something in the lease. I work with their lawyers. I wanted the acknowledgement of those new apartments on Route 125 that, you live next to an airport. Of course, that didn't go anywhere. But it is what it is in that stage of the game. But it is something that I anticipate in the future, there'll be complaints coming from those apartments, but presently there aren't any.
Any other questions on that subject, commissioners? No.
All right, well, thank you.
Are you all set for the winter, Mike? Employee?
We are. That's if I go down my list quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
We're preparing for the winter. We're swapping over all the equipment, getting it ready. We've run into some COVID problems, and I hope to get an answer next week. I'll be at a conference. Domingo has been working diligently, but steel's in short supply, and we have cutting edges for all the plow trucks, but he's trying to find cutting edges for the plow that goes on to the John Deere loader as well as the small loader bucket. And the suppliers that we typically use are telling us no luck, and he's gone everywhere looking for it, and it seems to be the best time frame is the spring. Of course, we don't need it. No. A contractor with a John Deere bucket would, but we're not going to need it for our purposes. So I'm going to talk to some of the airport managers next week when I'm at the Mass Airport Management Association conference, and then see if they A, have a supply source, or B, maybe we could acquire some materials that we may need from someone that's got an abundant supply, use our personal connections. But we are working towards getting all the equipment ready. I hope it stays 70 degrees right through until next March, and then it goes into the 80s in April, and I'll be good with that. But we have to accept reality. We are in New England. the airport has been transitioning as part of the security system. We needed a faster upload and download speed for the internet for our security images that were going to be sent over to the North Denver Police Department. So we've been transitioning from Comcast as our telecommunication internet service provider to Verizon. We had numerous hiccups, but I'm proud to say that finally we're transitioned on to Verizon. We have a working system, and there was a period of time we had to send out a notice on the website and I believe through Twitter that we were having intermittent problems with our email and our telephones, but everything's up and running, everything's working well. So I just wanted to make the commission aware of that in case they received any complaints. On October 2nd, we had a lovely event. The state of Massachusetts chose Lawrence to demonstrate electric vehicles, and it was a clean city initiative. And they called and asked if we could, host it up at the airport. As you may recall, I talked about in September. They brought in a bunch of electric vehicles, electric motorcycles, some pretty wild stuff. And we had a great event. A lot of people were in attendance. The mayor came up and said a few words to the vendors and the people who are displaying their electric vehicles. So that was nice. It excited me about the prospects of having an electric vehicle charging station when we get our new administration building. I'm looking forward to that. But we had a good time there. It was a good public event for the airport. On a positive note, in late September, I sat down with the superintendent of the Lawrence Vocational School, together with Nick Flamia and John McGarty from MBM Helicopters. The Lawrence Vocational School is interested in developing an airframe and power plant program at their school, so they can graduate with an A&P license, a federal license to do repair work on aircraft. And the school is interested in establishing a classroom environment up here at the airport. And they asked me to first meet with them and bring on people that were knowledgeable subject matter experts on this field. So I reached out to the mechanics on the field, and Nick and John gave of their time to come to that first meeting. And the superintendent took that information back to his school committee and then took it to the Department of Education for the Commonwealth. And they're very happy with what they heard and the steps that they're taking, and they've given them approval to go to the next level. So they came back to us and we had a meeting on Tuesday, I believe, and they're excited. They want Nick and me and John to serve on an advisory committee that will start to develop a curriculum and get a blueprint together as to what would be expected to develop this program in terms of capital expenditures and operational budgets and all the rest. And they're going on to the next level, and they're working with our legislators out of Lawrence, Frank Moran, one of them that was mentioned, to get specific legislation to allow them to do this. They're very excited about the prospects of employment if you hold one of these licenses. I was not aware of this. I think some of you on the call are probably very aware of it, but I wasn't. A&P licenses are not just desirable in the aviation industry. Other industries such as elevator mechanics, amusement ride operators, forklift operators. There's so many different industries out there that grab the A&P. And according to Nick, he believes approximately 50% of the people who graduate airframe and power plant programs don't even go into aviation. They go into other industries because their knowledge is so broad. They have hydraulics and electrical and mechanical. They have so much knowledge that these other industries grab them, particularly as well because they pay such close attention to detail, and they know that they're very well-trained individuals. So that the vocational school is very happy to hear that too, because it wasn't as though they were just creating future aircraft mechanics. They were going to give them a great education that makes them marketable across several fields of the economy. So they're excited by that. I think it's great news. I think they're talking big picture building, or Nick may build, and they would lease back a hangar on the field that would accommodate the classroom environment to deal with the A&P program as well as a diesel engine program. And Nick was excited, Mr. Flamey was excited to hear that. He said, because that seems to be a way where more and more aircraft are using diesel engines. So he thought it would be a great idea for them to do that as well. And that's all I have, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mike? None? Okay,
All right.
do you have a motion on the floor to accept the manager's report?
Motion is made by Castillo.
Second by Danya.
All in favor?
Good night.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. Great job.
All right, thank you.
Next, now I just want Doc here. Public comments, Dom or Bob, would you guys like to speak?
Sure, sure. Good evening, everybody. Glad to see everybody. Wish we were there in person. Just a few, just minor updates from what we're doing at the facilities. Commissioner Foley indicated a little bit about the security project. It's pretty much done. We had a final inspection the other week, and just very few minor things will be corrected. They didn't really amount to much. So very good job. We're very happy with it, and we can check that off the list. The master plan, we continue to look at the alternatives, and we expect we'll be distributing that information to the appropriate stakeholders in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. The lighting vault, we're just kind of waiting on the delivery of the vault structure itself. And we're hoping that sometime in November we get it. But as we all know, that's been a little bit of an issue to some of the parts and equipment for not only that, but also on the security upgrade as well. So we're just hoping that when we speak to Helen, they'll have an update for us, but we have not spoken to them as of today. And Taxiway Charlie, the other day we had a scoping meeting with FAA and MassDOT and for the final design. And so that's up and running, and you'll be hearing more of that in the weeks and months to come on that. So that's pretty much the information that I think is viable and of pertinent, something that you all want to know about it.
All right.
If I could just add for everyone's benefit, the Taxiway Charlie project, if you may recall, is the one that will connect Taxiway Foxtrot on the north side of the field. It will run straight across now and be a full parallel taxiway and connect up with Charlie on the south side of the field. And that's what we're meeting with the FAA to work through what they would be looking for the scope and design on that.
Mike, if it helps, I could share my screen and show the plan for Taxiway Charlie, if that's okay.
All right, go right ahead. Do you have that authority?
All right.
This
I don't
version
know.
of
I'll
Zoom
try it.
does not allow us to do certain things.
Nope. I don't think I can.
Yeah, let me
Did
see.
you hit share your screen, Don?
Yeah.
Hold on,
It's
I'm
not
gonna
working?
I'm gonna check it to multiple participants.
Okay.
Try it now.
Let's see.
All right. It won't allow me to create a co-host. We had that problem when we did the master plan. But it will allow me to do this. I don't know why.
If you can't do it, Dom, I can't then. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Good job.
Yeah, so the project, like Mike said, it includes removing taxiway Delta, so that's in the green. So that taxiway will be completely removed, turned back to grass. And then the yellow is the new pavement that's going to be added as part of the project. So basically taxiway Charlie will end up connecting to taxiway Foxtrot. So we'll have a second parallel taxiway to 1432.
Dom, show everybody where the admin building is in case they're not totally familiar with.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, so the admin building, I can maybe zoom in a little. The admin building is right here, the terminal.
Yep.
So if you look out the window from the conference room, you'd be looking at taxiway Alpha right here. So yeah, taxiway Delta runs from kind of from the terminal ramp and west ramp up to the north ramp. And it's non-standard geometry, the way that it crosses the runways at this angle. They like to have, if they can, they like to have them at 90 degrees. And then it's also direct ramp to runway access, which the FAA does not like. And I believe they call it a hotspot, which I think Mike, I'm trying to remember where the hotspot is. I think it's this intersection.
Yeah, it's up in there.
It
It's
is.
as Dom pointed out, it's a big safety concern of the FAA. And after we did our safety areas, which was the runoff areas at the end of the runways, the big thing they kept saying was geometry, geometry, geometry. And they did not want aircraft to be able to start up their aircraft and just go straight out from a parking ramp to a runway. They want them to have to physically turn 90 degrees at some point in that process. So that's why that's the whole basis of this, is to remove the pavement. So somebody from the south or west ramp can't inadvertently drive out to or taxi out to the runway. And if you look at the north ramp, Dom, if you can bring the slide down a little, you'll see how all those hangars coming out to the taxiway, they could also inadvertently continue on and come right out to runway 1432. So that's the point behind this, is to remove that potential accident.
Yeah, and then the only other thing we're doing as part of Charlie over here is we have to, it looks like it lines up with taxiway Foxtrot, but it's actually off by 10 feet. So we got to shift it just 10 feet towards 3-2 so that we get it to line up with existing Foxtrot over here. And so we just we'll be taking some pavement, a little bit of pavement away, and then adding some pavement on the side towards the runway. And we're going to do a little bit of widening to meet the current taxiway design group standards. Does anyone have any questions?
Comment on the stub too.
Oh, yeah, and then we're going to be installing a stub taxiway right here, which is, they don't like to have them in the middle third of the runway, so it's a little bit beyond the middle third, little under 1,000 feet from the approach end of 1-4.
And the reason for that also, that was with input from the control tower. They wanted aircraft twofold. Number one, get off the runway as quickly as possible. But number two, they were concerned about aircraft that have to come back to the south ramp, as was I. The aircraft going to the north ramp are just going to go to the end of the runway, turn right, then take a left, and a lot of them are at their location they need to be. Those aircraft on the south side are going to have to go all the way to the end of the runway. They come all the way back, and it was just felt as though it was burdensome to them. So we wanted that stub in. FAA was initially resistant, but they agreed that, you know, it's a good idea to get aircraft off the runway, and the ancillary benefit is we'll also get people back to the south side a lot faster too.
I can stop sharing my screen if everyone's good.
That was very helpful.
Yeah, very nice. Great job.
Yeah, picture's worth
Yeah.
1,000 words. Yeah.
So anybody have any questions for Bob or Dom? No?
I wanted to just mention one other thing. I wanted to thank Mike and Christine for their patience, and they kind of had to put in some hard work too during the security upgrade project, between the delays on waiting for some materials and then the disruptions with cutting over the gates and just having the guys kind of work all over the place, especially in a kind of a critical area right at where everyone accesses the airfield. So I wanted to thank them for that, and then also for their hard work while they're trying to learn a new system for the access control and the video surveillance. They've had to go through some training to learn the new system, and they'll probably be going through some more hopefully in the next few weeks. So
thank you, Don, for those kind words, but Christine's the one learning it. I'm just sitting by her side.
No, Mike is
It is
learning.
another language. It really is.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Teamwork.
Yep.
No, Madam
Anything
Chair, you're
else?
100% correct. It is all teamwork.
Yeah.
Everyone working together from the commission on down. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments, the board? No? All right, so this will complete this board meeting. Our next board meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, November 18th? correct?
That's correct.
6:30?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if nobody has any other questions, concerns, or answers, or do we have a motion on the floor to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
second,
Second, Castillo.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Hey.
too.
Thank you.
guys.
Aye.
Thank you. Happy
Bye,
Halloween.
everybody.
Yeah,
Aye.
bye-bye.
Bye.